Welcome back to the Pitwell Pod. It's Belgium Grand Prix weekend and Spa-Francorchamps has already delivered drama in Friday's only practice session. Oscar Piastri stunned the paddock by going fastest, nearly half a second clear of Max Verstappen, with Lando Norris just behind. Red Bull rolled out major upgrades. Verstappen won the sprint later that day and McLaren locked out the front row in a qualifying with Norris on pole. Meanwhile, Hamilton struggled in the Ferrari and Carlos Sainz fought back from a fuel issue in FP1. We've got everything from pace, pressure, the podium predictions, and right here in today's episode. Let's get into it. Friday free practice. Piastri pounces at Spa. Let's talk about Friday at Spa, and more especially the only practice session of the weekend ahead of the sprint qualifying. Yes, it was a sprint format, so teams had just 1 hour to dial in this setup, and it was Oscar Piastri who came out swinging. Fresh from that breakthrough podium last time out, Piastri topped the timesheets in FP1, throwing down a blistering 1:42.022 on soft tires, nearly half a second clear of Max Verstappen. It's worth noting that Verstappen was running Red Bull's heavily upgraded RB21 with a new cooling system and front suspension. Still, Max had to settle for P2, 4 tenths of seconds off Piastri's pace. Rounding out the top three was Lando Norris, just a tenth back from Verstappen. Though his run was a bit scruffy, he went wide at Stavelot on his first soft tire flyer. Early on, it was Nico Hülkenberg who led the pack out of the pits, eager to maximize track time, while Carlos Sainz had a rough start, reporting his Williams was stuck in limp home mode. Lance Stroll also returned to the garage after his install lap with a seat issue, though he bounced back later in the session to briefly top the timesheets. The usual Spa chaos wasn't far behind. Lewis Hamilton, now in Ferrari red, jumped the curb at the top of Eau Rouge and ran deep at Le Combe. Alex Albon dipped his wheels into the gravel at Malmedy, and rookies Kimi Antonelli and Franco Colapinto both locked up into La Sauce. In the second half of the session, the times really started to tumble. Leclerc briefly led on the hard compound, then Stroll and Colapinto traded fastest laps during a short soft tire flurry, but ultimately Piastri dropped the hammer, going faster twice in the final minutes to steal P1. Here's a quick look at top 5 from FP1. 1. Oscar Piastri. 2. Max Verstappen. 3. Lando Norris. 4. George Russell. And 5. Charles Leclerc. Behind them, Hamilton took 7th over 2nd of the pace, while Stroll and Alonso put both upgrade Aston Martins into the top 10. Isaac Hadjar also impressed in P10, capping off a strong start for Racing Bulls. As for Carlos Sainz, he got back on track after that early issue and managed P11. Not the start he wanted, but salvageable with clean running in qualifying. And now all eyes were on sprint qualifying at 4:30 local time. 1 hour practice, now straight into the pressure cooker. Spa delivered in practice, will deliver in the shootout. Sprint qualifying, Piastri perfection at Spa. Alright, let's talk sprint qualifying. And Oscar Piastri was simply untouchable at Spa. In a one-lap shootout to decide the sprint grid, Piastri delivered a masterclass, nailing a 1:40.510 to take sprint pole by nearly half a second over Max Verstappen. With Lando Norris settling for third, McLaren on fire again, but it was the Aussie who rose above. Now rewind to the SQ1 chaos from the start. Kimi Antonelli spun at high speed at Stavelot, damaging his Mercedes and flat spotting his tires. Lewis Hamilton then brought out yellow flags after a spin into final chicane. His Ferrari ended at P18 and out in SQ1 by shock. Big shock. Knockouts in SQ1 are Albon, Hülkenberg, Hamilton, Colapinto, and Antonelli. Into SQ3, Things got tense for Piastri. His first lap was deleted for track limits at Eau Rouge, and he barely scraped through with a 142.169, just 400ths ahead of Liam Lawson. Norris topped the session, Verstappen second, but George Russell, Yuki Tsunoda, Fernando Alonso, and Lance Stroll were all eliminated. Knockouts in SQ2 are Lawson, Tsunoda, Russell, Alonso, and Stroll. Then came SQ3, and with only one set of soft tires available, it was a one-lap gamble. Norris let down the first marker with a 141.128. Verstappen beat it with a 140.987, but Piastri, he absolutely flew. 140.510, nearly half a second faster than Max, and a dominant statement from the McLaren driver. Behind the top three, Leclerc was best of the rest, followed by a stunning performance from Esteban Ocon in P5 for Haas. His teammate Oliver Bearman grabbed 7th, split by Carlos Sainz in the Williams. Gasly, Hadjar and Bortoleto rounded out the top 10. Top 5 from sprint quali: 1. Oscar Piastri, 2. Max Verstappen, 3. Lando Norris, 4. Charles Leclerc, and 5. Esteban Ocon. And as Piastri put it, the car's been mega all day. This is a track I love, my favorite of the year. Maybe that gave me a couple extra tenths. Next up, the sprint, and with Oscar in the kind of form, the rest of the grid better be ready. Sprint race, Verstappen strikes back at Spa. It was lights out in Spa, and Max Verstappen reminded everyone why he's still the one to beat, securing his first sprint win of the season in commanding style. From P2 on the grid, Max made a textbook overtake on Oscar Piastri during lap 1, using the slipstream down the Camel Straight and snatched the lead. Piastri had launched well from pole, but Verstappen's Red Bull with all its upgrades was just too strong. Piastri didn't let up, though he stayed glued to Max's gearbox for most of the 11-lap dash, and at one point even looked around the outside, but Verstappen held his ground, despite later reporting brake issues at the final chicane. Still, he crossed the line 7 tenths ahead of Piastri, who had to settle for second, with Lando Norris close behind in third, after reclaiming the position from Charles Leclerc mid-race. Let's run through the top 8 sprint finishers. 1. Max Verstappen, 2. Oscar Piastri, 3. Lando Norris, 4. Charles Leclerc, 5. Esteban Ocon, 6. Carlos Sainz, 7. Oliver Bearman, and 8. Isaac Hadjar. It was another impressive showing for Haas, with Ocon in P5 and Bearman in the points again. Carlos Sainz also put in a solid performance for Williams, finishing 6th. There was drama before the race even began. Franco Colapinto started from the pit lane due to a rear wing change, and Pierre Gasly didn't even make it to the start, with Alpine pulling the car off the grid for a water system issue. He later rejoined 2 laps down for data gathering. Further back, Lewis Hamilton's tough weekend continued, finishing 15th behind both Aston Martin. He radioed in mid-race saying, "I've got no rear," and Ferrari just never looked hooked up. And a quick shout out to rookie Kimi Antonelli, who had a scrappy sprint quali, but climbed a few places to finish 17th, still chasing performance, but the potential is there. In the end, it was Verstappen on top, Piastri right behind, and Norris keeping the pressure on. The big question now, can anyone stop Max in Sunday's main race? The McLarens have the pace, but they'll need more than speed. They'll need strategy, guts, and maybe just a bit of Spa magic. Norris surges to pole at Spa. Qualifying at Spa-Francorchamps never disappoints, and this time it was Lando Norris who stole the spotlight. The McLaren driver delivered a sensational lap to claim pole position for Sunday's Belgium Grand Prix, edging out teammate Oscar Piastri by just 0.08 of a second in a McLaren front row lockout. Let's rewind. Norris was the man to beat in Q1, but it was Piastri who fired back in Q2, setting the fastest time and flexing some serious pace. But in Q3, When it mattered most, Norris bit down a scorching 1:40.562, a time no one could top in the final runs. Charles Leclerc came closest, pulling out a late flight to slot into P3, demoting Max Verstappen, who struggled with the grip in his upgrade Red Bull, to fourth. Behind the leading quartet, Alex Albon stunned again with a mighty performance in the Williams, grabbing P5 ahead of George Russell in the Mercedes. Yuki Tsunoda put his Red Bull 7th, while Isaac Hadjar and Liam Lawson made it a double top 10 for Racing Bulls. Gabriel Bortoleto rounded out the top 10 for Kick Sauber. It was a heartbreak for Lewis Hamilton, who looked to have escaped Q1 until his lap was deleted for track limits, dropping him to P16 and out early. He'll be starting behind Carlos Sainz, Nico Hulkenberg, and Pierre Gasly, who all failed to reach Q3. A tough day, though, for Haas. After shining in sprint, both Esteban Ocon and Ollie Bearman missed the cut in Q2, and down at the back it was a rough outing for Aston Martin, with Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll propping up the grid in 19th and 20th. But make a mistake, no mistake, McLaren are flying. This Lando's moment, Paul at Spa, a track that separates the great from the good. Can he convert it into victory on race day, or will Verstappen fight back as he so often does? We'll dive into predictions, team strategies, and more right after this break. Piastri holds off Norris for Belgium Grand Prix glory. Spa delivered again, and this time it was Oscar Piastri who rose to the occasion. In a chaotic wet-to-dry Belgium Grand Prix delayed by almost 80 minutes due to heavy rain, the McLaren driver claimed his sixth win of the season, holding off none other than teammate and title rival Lando Norris to take maximum points and stretch his lead in the Drivers' Championship to 16 points. The key moment, lap 1, well, technically lap 5, after 4 laps behind the safety car. As the track dried just enough for racing to begin, Piastri got a lightning exit out of La Source, tucked in tight through Eau Rouge and Raidillon, and then blast past Norris on the Camel Straight, taking the lead into Le Cam. I knew that lap 1 was going to be probably my best chance of winning the race, said Piastri. I got a good exit of turn 1 and lifted a little as I dared through Eau Rouge. It was enough. Once in front, Piastri managed the gap smartly. On lap 13 he made a bold call to switch to mediums after Lewis Hamilton went on the mediums on lap 12, while Norris stayed out one more lap. A slower stop for Norris due to a tricky front left meant he rejoined nearly 9 seconds behind Piastri. From there, the chase was on. The mediums wasn't great in the last 5 or 6 laps, Oscar admitted, but we had it mostly under control. I was disappointed with myself after the sprint, but turns out starting a second at Spa is not too bad after all. Norris meanwhile pushed harder in the closing laps, cutting the gap to just over 3 seconds, but a lock-up at La Source and the penultimate lap ended any hopes of a last-ditch move. I gave it everything, Norris said post-race. We went for a different tire strategy, hoping it would come back to us at the end, and it nearly did, but Oscar drove a great race today. He deserved it. Behind the McLaren 1-2, Charles Leclerc brought home P3 for Ferrari, finishing 20 seconds off the win. But he had to work hard to keep Max Verstappen behind. Saturday's sprint winner was just 1.5 seconds off the podium after a strategic gamble with more downforce didn't pay off on Spa's long straights. George Russell finished a long fifth for Mercedes, while Alex Albon delivered another standout performance for Williams, taking a sixth after withstanding constant pressure from Lewis Hamilton, who made a remarkable recovery from a pit lane start to finish P7 in his Ferrari. Liam Lawson, Gabriel Bortoleto, and Pierre Gasly rounded out the points, with Gasly having to hold off a DRS train for much of the second half. There were no DNFs and no mid-race cautions, a rare feat at Spa, Every single driver made it to the flag, though some like Carlos Sainz, Fernando Alonso and Kimi Antonelli had quiet afternoons after starting from the pit lane. The Drivers' Championship top 5: 1. Oscar Piastri with 266 points. 2. Lando Norris with 250 points. 3. Max Verstappen with 165 points. 4. George Russell with 147 points. And 5. Charles Leclerc with 119 points. And that's a wrap on this episode of the Pitwall Pod, covering all the drama and excitement from the 2025 Belgium Grand Prix. From Lando Norris clinching a stunning pole to Oscar Piastri converting into its victory, Spa once again delivered a weekend full of surprises, wet weather, and standout performances. Whether it was Albon punching above his weight, Tsunoda nailing his best Red Bull grid slot, or Hamilton's shock Q1 exit, this weekend reminded us why Spa is one of the most unpredictable tracks on the calendar. The paddock packs up quickly as everyone heads straight from the Ardennes to Budapest. The Hungarian Grand Prix takes place August 1st to 3rd, and with the championship battle between Piastri and Norris heating up, you won't want to miss it. Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow, rate, and share the podcast. We'll be back with more insights, reactions, and behind the scenes upgrades from Hungary. Until then, stay fast, stay curious, and keep it on the racing line.